Gracias a Judith, Jane, Teresa, Agnes por sus explicaciones. Vamos a tener una sesión de 10-15 minutos para intervenciones o para aportes sobre estos temas tratados por ellas, si los hay. Por favor, levante la mano quien desee intervenir para poder organizar la manera como se les concederá. 1, 2. Tienes el uso de la palabra y sigues. 2 intervenciones.
Hello. Ooh, sorry. My name is May Labrano, and I'm a medical student in Shreveport, Louisiana. And to combat human trafficking, I developed a multidisciplinary human trafficking curriculum for healthcare professionals. Victims of human trafficking interact with the healthcare system before, during, and after their victimization and exploitation. So this provides healthcare professionals a unique opportunity to play a critical role in identification and care for these victims. So for this reason, healthcare professionals must be trained about human trafficking, not only from a public health and medical perspective, but also in a civil rights and legal perspective. I believe healthcare professionals should acquire knowledge of the local legal protocols in the community for which they serve. So I have the joy of traveling to Bungoma, Kenya, to treat patients at a medical mobile clinic operated by my medical school through a program called SHIP for the month of February. And before the trip, my multidisciplinary curriculum will be offered to the medical students and doctors who will be treating the patients. So I was wondering if you all had any recommendations for the human trafficking curriculum that can be specific to a medical mobile clinic. And if not, I also just wanted to say thank you for sharing. And it was an honor to meet all of you, and I will take what I've learned today back with me, and it will be applied when my fellow students and I serve the people of Kenya in February. So thank you.
Gracias, Mae. Tiene el uso de la palabra la doctora Nancy Asher.
So I've heard some of you talk about what you think are the foundations of trafficking, what is a fertile ground for it. And Agnes talked about unemployment and illiteracy and poverty. And we heard yesterday about ignorance. That word was used as well. But I want to ask the question relating to the family unit, relating to naivete, relating to perhaps young people who are trusting and feel that when adults speak to them that there is some authority in the adults speaking to them. So it's another element. May I assume that the people that you represent actually have really strong family units, and the young people are vulnerable because, in fact, they respect the adults around them. They are used to having loving environments, so they do not distrust the people who come to them. Blessing, what you talked about were people who you trusted rather than people who accosted you. And so we teach our children to be part of a family unit and to be loving and to trust, but we also teach them to not go out with strangers. So I just want to have a little element of that issue. Roslyn, you talked about it too, the family unit, how that fits into what we're thinking about and how that can help us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, traditionally, we used to have this oral education, and a child would grow up knowing that the older members of the community are wise, and their advice is wise. But you know, with the change in social norms, we have to adjust, because the children are able, or the youth, they are able to access the internet. And in fact, in some instances, you go to address them on an issue, they would laugh. And you fail to understand. It's because they know more. So what they need in order to win their confidence, as my colleagues have said here, you have to work with them to be part of the system, invite their ideas. It is not very easy. And if you have the age groups whereby they have their own way of speaking their own language, different from the language of the aged people. So you have to mix where they have confidence, their own elders, to assist you, police them into good behavior. Education is very important, and especially for women. For example, in Kenya, in the recent past, we have witnessed numerous instances where young girls are being murdered because maybe the family financial situation is not so good. They team up with a boyfriend or a man friend and they get murdered. Thank you. Maybe my sisters can add.
Bueno, gracias Roselín. No hay más intervenciones. Termina la sesión. Yo agradezco Ana y Jane. Entonces, Ana, por favor.
Okay, I quite agree with you, and I sort of go on from what you have said, Nancy, that we have to see poverty, ignorance, unemployment, the family, the surroundings, all these are parts of why this happens. But then we are all focusing on the trafficked person, on the victim. And I would just like to repeat what I said. We also have to look at who is the root. That is the person who is the exploiter, the person who is using other persons. It's a difficult question to answer. How can we change them? How can we make these men, most of the time, how can we make them, but also women, not use other persons? But I just want to emphasize that it's very easy for us to go back and only talk about the victim, which is very important. Of course, we have to look at the victim, we have to help them. But if we are really to look at the root cause of this, it's demand.
Gracias, Ana. Jane?
I wanted to agree also with Judge Roslyn and also with Anna. It is not about looking at one moving thing in the machine. We are looking at the victim, yes, and we are looking at the perpetrator. But just like Judge Anna said, we must look also at the unit, at the family. Like my colleague said, the best way in Kenya would be education. So as we look for interventions, awareness is the first thing we are doing, or we are recommending, is that we go into the schools, to the younger primary schools, ages between 6 to 13, and we start creating awareness slowly. By the time they're growing to be that age where they can be trafficked, they are aware. And that way, as Judge Roslina said, we will have worked with them without telling them what to do, but just slowly just grinding the wheel towards the right direction. Thank you.
¿Christine? Sí, tú.
Thank you for this opportunity. I wish to say to Miriam, we're looking forward to hosting you in Kenya. And even as you come for the medical camp and for the program that the medical institution is running, I think we've been talking a lot about the psychological aspects, looking beyond the physical bruises, but also on the mental aspect and the psychological aspects. Maybe in the panel discussion, we can have those people also come along with you as you're coming for that session, so that now we also have that aspect covered during those discussions. And I like what I've seen, I think, in your country about the Big Brother program or something like that, where we adopt someone who has gone through the system, maybe like Blessing, but then they can help in the issues of reintegration into the society. So maybe if we can have some sort of that aspect also integrated in the program, we see how that can help. People who come back also have that like accountability partner, so that we don't have more of them also still going back into the same vice or falling into the same trap. Thank you.
Helen?
Thank you so much. We are looking at education, and that is what we are currently doing in Kenya, trying in our small ways to educate. And we have all the laws. We have the international laws, we have the regional laws, we have the national laws. But what is the missing link? These are cross-border. And I'm going to stress on this. These are cross-border. And here, we have so many countries from Africa. And we have regions. Like for the women judges, we have the women judges in all of these countries. In our small ways, we need to look at a way in which we can be able to build these bridges between the other countries so that we can be able to share the experiences and look for ways on how to combat it. Because like she said, most of the cases that we have even in Nairobi, you will get the disabled children who are being brought. Someone is behind it, definitely. Who is getting the money? They are beggars in the streets, isn't it? And they are from Uganda, from the East Africa community. But we have never known who is the perpetrator. It is the children who are in need of care and protection. So as the African countries, I think we are here. We can be able to see in our small ways, in the associations that we have, how we can be able to share the experiences, see the way forward on how we can be able to combat the issue of human trafficking. Thank you.
¿Alguna otra intervención? Tienes allá el uso de la palabra.
Ok. Bonsoir, Marie-Chantal Kofi, Côte d'Ivoire. Je voudrais remercier les organisateurs et toutes ces personnes qui ont parlé durant ces 2 jours. Pendant ces 2 jours, en tout cas, nous avons appris beaucoup. Et les exemples et les bonnes pratiques des différents pays nous ont beaucoup édifiés. Je voudrais vraiment remercier nos sœurs du Kenya qui nous ont fait une présentation complète avec toutes les situations qui pouvaient se présenter en matière de trafic. Il y a une d'elles, je ne sais pas, c'est Jeanne qui a présenté une expérience en matière de protection des victimes. Et je voudrais savoir si c'est une expérience nationale ou bien c'est quelque chose qui est expérimenté uniquement dans une seule juridiction. Et puis également, je voudrais dire merci aux sœurs, parce que nous, en Côte d'Ivoire, lorsque nous avons des cas de fillettes victimes de traite et d'exploitation, parce que nous n'avons pas toujours des structures nationales, c'est aux religieuses qu'on confie ces enfants. Et je voudrais vraiment leur dire merci pour l'action, le travail qu'elles font pour la protection des victimes et spécialement des filles victimes. Merci.
Gracias a Henriette. Monseñor.
No, I think that as judges that you are, we need to understand that have 2 dimensions, the question of the trafficking of persons, especially in the subject of prostitution. One is prevention, and maybe we need to have better laws, and especially an adaptation of the Nordic model, because of course education, but also law, because we don't have law. The people say, well, I don't have, the law is just for the criminals and not for the good people. The good people not need law. So I think this is very important, that take a common awareness about the need to try to create something similar at the Nordic model, because in the end, according to our experience, is the best model to prevent. And the other thing is what we can do with the victims. In this sense, also we need to obtain a common protocol, we can say, to reinsert the victims in the society. For example, we know a very good model in Mexico. Rosa Orozco have a sort of protocol, but also in United States, we know a group of a state, Louisiana, that have all the people, but especially with 2 priests and the governor, created a mansion to give a sort of preparation and also titles to the young people, to the young, special women who are victims of prostitution. I don't know if in your country you have some sort of these institutions to reinsert in the society the victims. Because, and this is the question, if these are crimes against humanity, it's also responsibility of the state to help the reinsertion of these victims. So all the state need to have real institutions for this, because it's part of the common good, or the good of the person. So we need to understand this question as question of state, a political state. And I don't know if in your countries have something about in this sense. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Monseñor. ¿Alguien más? Jane.
Sorry, just to recap on what the bishop has said and what my colleague has said. In Kenya, we have the practical application by the government. We have the Witness Protection Act, and in the Witness Protection Agency, they get money from a consolidated fund from the government. As of last year, it was in one of my slides, I did not get there, but we had 80.8 billion Kenya shillings allocated as part of the funds to go to the Witness Protection Agency. And in these funds, some of the money is used to cater for safe houses for these victims. Some money is also used as travel expenses to go to court for the victims. It is used to take them to hospital. So in Kenya, we are actually, the government is trying, although the amount might not be enough because this money is shared with other agencies, but there's some practical aspects into utilizing money to help the victims of trafficking. Thank you.
Bueno, de esta manera cerramos la jornada de la tarde. Solo quiero a título personal decir que el ser humano no se concibe sin libertad y sin una vida en dignidad, que quien pierde la dignidad o su libertad busca la manera de recuperarla. Se me ha dicho que para efectos de la clausura le conceda el uso de la palabra a la doctora Susana Medina. Doctora.